little bit behind schedule. It's all Ernie's fault. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of talk about reining a little bit.
What a better way to spend Sunday.
Ernie's getting the video for YouTube there, so you guys make sure to holler at him when he points it to you. Act like you're having fun even if you're not.
Anybody want to get up and break a move? That'd be fun too.
Break a move. That's what they called it back in Ernie's days, breaking a move. So, I'm kind of skipping ahead quite a bit from starting that colt to this deal right here. This is a horse named Dunnett's Champ, or we call him Champ, and he's owned by Dan and Jeannie. They're up here somewhere. And I've had him since last summer, I guess fall, I don't know, late in the summer. I took him to Arizona with me. He's one of my clients' horses I took with me, and I got back a couple weeks ago and been showing ever since. And Champ's done pretty good recently. The last couple shows I've been to. What I'm going to talk about today, just kind of real quick, is this turnarounds or the spins. Okay. Now, as you can see, a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about, it's all kind of based on the fact that this horse is broke. When I say broke, what I mean is you can pull on him and he gives his face somewhat. You can kick him and he doesn't freak out. He goes forward. And then when you take your legs off and pull, he stops and comes back to you. Okay? Without throwing his head up and knocking your hat off. Those are all signs of a broke horse. Now, does your horse have to be a finished reiner in order for you to think he's broke? Not at all. But what I'm saying is, you can't work on maneuvers like spins. You can't work on maneuvers like stopping or rolling back or changing leads or any of that stuff until you get a good foundation on your horse. And a good foundation on your horse is the fact of getting him broke. The fact of getting him to where when you put your right leg against him, he scoots his body to the left without making a big issue about it. When you put your left leg against him, he scoots his body to the right. Now, how do we teach him that? Well, you know, it's just pressure and release. When they're cold, you walk him up to the fence. You put your right leg on him. If he pushes into it or tries to jump or backs up, you just keep your right leg on him and you don't take it away. When he scoots over to the left, which is the way you want him to go, you take it off. You let him rest. Maybe you say, good job. Then you do it again. And pretty soon he learns that that leg is not going to go off until he moves over to the left. So then you go back to the right. You put your left leg on him. I'm not really using my hands. I'm just keeping my hands here so I can keep him straight, keep him kind of steady. Okay? And then over time, you start doing that as you're walking forward. You start changing his body a little bit. You start piecing it together, stuff like pushing his hips here, taking his shoulders over here. Pushing his hips to the right, taking his shoulders to the left. You start pushing things together, start changing his body. And all that stuff we can spend weeks talking about. We're kind of going to skip through some of that and talk about a more advanced spin. The foundation of a spin is getting the horse to follow his nose 360 degrees and his hindquarters are stationary. Okay? It has nothing to do with the pivot foot being stationary. It's all about his hindquarters being stationary. They used to talk about pivot feet a lot. They used to want a horse pivoting on one foot maybe. People used to talk about that a lot more. And basically I think over the time people found out that if a horse has one foot planted in the ground, he's really not able to put as much momentum into that turn as he needs to have a good turn. And as long as their hind end isn't moving around the arena, we're pretty good with having their hind end stationary, which means centered over both feet. It doesn't have to be a pivot foot. Now, do we want them pivoting on the wrong foot? No. But we don't necessarily want them drilling that foot in the ground. All they're really going to do is kind of anchor them down, and it's not going to allow them to be able to push forward and go around that turn. Now, when you first start teaching a horse to spin, that colt over there, I talked about the first couple things I teach him is to follow his nose. That's the most important thing you teach any horse from the beginning. And that's kind of where this turn starts. So I'm going to act like he's a colt now. If he was a colt, he'd be in a snaffle bit, which is a bit with less pressure, doesn't have any shanks. I might walk him up here to the corner, and I might just pull on him. See how when I pulled on him, he followed with the shoulders. His hind end kind of somewhat stayed in one spot. Well, you don't have to use a wall. You can do it out in the middle. But I might start out by kind of pulling on him a little bit. So I might start out here, and I might pull on this, and in the beginning, colt might swing his butt out like this, or he might throw his shoulders this way, or do all kinds of stuff. But I'm just going to keep pulling hard and solid until this happens. When he just kind of somewhat follows his nose right there, I'm going to quit. Everybody see how he kind of rocked back on his hocks or his hind end? He picked up that front end and went that way. That's what I'm waiting for on a colt. I'm just going to pull and wait until he moves this way, and he starts following his nose a little bit, okay? And then from that, I start hanging on to that rein and driving it forward. So at the same time I'm teaching this horse to follow his nose like this, it's almost making him pushy, almost making him hang on that bit a little bit. Then I might drive him forward and soften him up on that left side. Soften him up where I can drive forward with my feet, pick up one rein, and he kind of gives. Pick up that left rein, make him give. Pick up that left rein, he's kind of getting soft in my hand, push with my feet, make him give. And then I might take my legs off, especially my inside leg, and pull. Now he's following his nose. I'm not using my feet, I'm making him follow my hand. Now if he quits moving his feet, then I might bump him with this right leg right here, make him move his feet. But in the beginning, it's all about just letting him follow my hands. A horse has got to learn to follow your hands. Their shoulders should stay underneath your hands. Whoop. Their shoulders should stay underneath your hands. And when you put your hands over here, their shoulders should go over there. Okay, so how do you teach that? Well, you start out by making them follow one hand first. When I pull here, his nose has to go that way. What's connected to his nose? His neck. What's connected to his neck? His shoulders. What's at the bottom of his shoulders? His feet. So when I pull this way, his feet need to go that way, right? So I start teaching him follow his nose, not using my feet, just pulling. And let's say he gets stuck and just hangs on me, I might just bump one time. Not because I want him to know that my leg means spin, I want him to know my leg means move your feet. And since I'm pulling him this way, that's the direction his feet should move. Okay? So that's kind of the very beginning. Then on top of that, we kind of go soften him up. After a little while, you kind of get one to, you might walk up into the fence here, just stop, kind of 45 degrees, pull that rein, make him pivot away from it, and drive him out of it. Driving him forward is a big key to teaching a horse to spin, teaching a horse to roll back, teaching a horse to do anything. Forward motion. So I drive him forward a lot. He has to push off his hindquarters when I drive him forward. When he pushes off his hindquarters, that means he's lifting his weight up off his front end. When he lifts his weight up off his front end, that's kind of getting to where I want him to be. That way he can start following my hand with his shoulders, like we just went back to a minute ago. When I pull this way, he should go that way. Now, the key to getting one a little more broke from riding him two-handed in the snaffle bit is starting to lay that neck rein against him, which I'll start from the first day I ride him, but I won't really expect him to do it right until after I've ridden him a little while. So I might go neck rein, then pull their nose, and then neck rein, and then pull their nose, and then neck rein, and then pull their nose. Now, he already knows what it means when I pull his nose, right? Because I've been teaching him that. So when I pull that nose, he knows to go that way. But if I always just keep pulling his nose and never worry about a neck rein, then one day I think, okay, now he's 5 years old, I should ride him in a bridle one-handed. And I just do this? Is he going to have a clue what it means? Of course not. I'm going to have to do what? I have to do this. Okay? So how do we teach him that? We use something he already knows, and we put something new in front of it, or first. So neck rein, and then teach him what he already knows. Neck rein, and then show him what he already knows. That way, pretty soon, he starts doing this. You lay that neck rein on him, and he's thinking, oh, I know he's going to pull my nose that way. And he kind of starts going that way. Okay? That's kind of where it starts. Neck rein, direct rein. And even if your horse isn't going to be a reining horse, if you just get him broke, it's so much nicer to ride. If you just get him where you can take your hand and put it over here and they go over there, or you can take both hands and put it over here and they go over there. They don't have to spin. They don't have to get ready to show like this horse. But it's so nice if you can have a horse that you guide him and he goes where you're asking him to go. You feel so much safer. It's just kind of like having a car that steers where you want it to steer. You just feel so much better when you're driving it. So, if you take a couple of these concepts and kind of use them, I mean, I ride a lot of horses that are never going to be show horses. I start a lot of colts for people. I ride a lot of rope horses, cow horses, trail riding horses, barrel horses. It doesn't matter. Once you get a horse where